Hello, story lovers, and welcome back to my channel, Tales with Tasha. I am Tasha and I am a storyteller. I love stories and I hope you will enjoy the ones on my channel as much as I do. We have our fourth and last reimagined fairy tale today. This one, a comedy zombie retelling of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This week's theme was zombies, and we have a bit of fun to round it off. Thank you to my husband for giving me the inspiration for this one. Don't forget to let me know your favourite genres / themes in the comments so I can make sure to have you covered in planning for 2022. Please subscribe to support the channel. For those new to YouTube, it's free. And also, smash that like button if you enjoy the tale. Thank you, lovelies. This story is what I would define as PG-ish, not suitable for the youngest viewers because of its brain-eating zombie theme, but there is nothing graphic in it. With that being said, make sure you're sitting comfortably, and let's jump right on in. Goldilocks and the Three Zombears, a fairy tale zombie parody by Natasha Duncan Drake. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears. But after the government failed to stop toxic dumping in their forest and Baby Bear came across a leaking metal drum, they became the 3 Zombears. They lived quietly in their cottage, feasting on the brains of smaller animals and adapting to life as the walking dead. It came with a few challenges, but they managed. One fine day, Mama Zombear had just finished cooking them all some brain porridge. Just plain brains were a little boring. "Brains," Papa Zombear said as he smelled it and gave his wife a slow peck on the cheek. It had to be a peck because he didn't want anything falling off. Baby Zombear picked up his spoon and gave it a taste. "Brains!" he said, dropping the spoon and sticking out his tongue. There was a little steaming patch among the grey. "Brains," Mama Zombear said, nodding sagely as if she had expected that. "Brains?" she asked and indicated the door. "Brains," Papa Zombear agreed, and the small family headed out into the sunshine. A nice shamble before breakfast would get the slime creeping through their veins. About 5 minutes after the 3 Zombears had closed their door, there was a knock on it. A few seconds later there was another, somewhat irritated in nature. When that failed to get a response, the door slowly opened and a blonde head poked in. "Hello?" the young woman called. "My name is Karen Goldilocks and I'm here on behalf of Urban Enhancers." Of course, there was still no answer, so Karen walked into the kitchen fully, because that's what overprivileged rich girls did when they were in Yokelville. "Hello?" she tried again. "I've come to talk to you about the new development that has just been approved for your area." She ran her fingers through her obviously dyed hair and examined her nails for a bit as she waited for some sort of response. "Well, I guess I'll make myself comfortable then," she said, as if it was the Zombears' fault that she had decided to call while they were out. She tried the largest chair at the end of the table. It was pretty huge, and she smiled for a moment as it reminded her of a throne. However, she soon started to fidget. The wooden seat was hard and the chair was so big her feet didn't touch the ground. Throne or not, she was not going to suffer that inconvenience. She shoved the big chair in her annoyance, making it crooked, even though it was too heavy to move far. Throwing herself into the second chair, she wiggled a bit and settled in, much happier. This chair had a lovely soft cushion on it. It would definitely do, even if it did look very provincial. She was looking around, critiquing the decor, when suddenly she gave an almighty sneeze. "Bless me," she said, rubbing her nose. "Damn countryside and nature." A few seconds later, she gave another sneeze, and then another. After the third, she looked down and saw a tiny something poking out of the cushion she was sitting on. "Oh, nasty," she said, as she pulled the tiny feather out of the cushion and instantly dropped it. Leaping off the chair, she picked up the seat and threw it as far away from her as she could get. She was allergic to feathers. Sitting back down, she tried to get comfortable again, but it just wasn't the same without the cushion. With a huff, she moved to the last chair. "Oh," she said, wiggling her personal trainer toned behind. "Now this is perfect." There was a cushion on this one too, which she checked quickly to make sure it had no feathers. It also had a padded back and was much more comfortable. She went back to mentally destroying the decor and relaxed for a few minutes. "Well, this is rude," she announced to the world eventually. "Leaving a guest with no refreshment is plain bad manners." It seemed to have escaped her that barging into someone's kitchen when they weren't there was also not in the How to Make Friends and Influence People guide. She sniffed at the bowl in front of her and made a small humming sound. However, she did not reach out for that bowl. After all, it was the smallest. Instead, she leaned across the table and pulled the largest bowl towards her. She took a heaped spoonful and put it in her mouth, then promptly spat it back in the bowl. "Ew, too hot," she said, pushing the bowl away. With a scowl, she grabbed the second largest bowl and pulled it towards her. "Ugh," she said, making a face, but at least not spitting it out this time. "Tepid. The housekeeper should be fired." Finally, she was left with the smallest bowl, and she tasted it more carefully. This time she smiled. "Wonder what kind of porridge this is," she mused as she tucked in. "Tastes a bit like the meat porridge I had at Marcello's last holiday weekend." She finished it off in double quick time. It was delicious. Only once she had finished it did she look over at the largest bowl and regret spitting the first mouthful back into it. The porridge had been really good, and now she was craving more. Of course, eating her own spit was too disgusting an idea. There was nothing useful like a microwave to heat up the tepid bowl either. Sitting back in her chair, she huffed, pulling out her phone. She would give the yokels 10 more minutes before she was leaving and telling her manager they were too moronic to have anything to say about the development. "Oh, you have to be kidding," she screeched, as her phone proclaimed there was no service. Standing up and overturning the smallest chair, she shoved her phone back in her pocket with force. "Then I'll just have to find something else to do," she said, and stamped her foot. Mentally eviscerating whoever had decorated the hovel she was standing in sounded like fun, so she walked into the next room. It was a quaint little living room that made her sick to her stomach. She walked around for a while, picking up and sneering at the ornaments, until she realized that maybe it wasn't the decor that was making her feel sick. Her stomach gave an ominous growl. She used some very strong language and started looking for a bathroom. In the end, she ran up the stairs and was lucky enough to pick the right door. Being messily ill in the toilet was not on her top 10 list, but she didn't have much choice. "I'll sue them for every penny they've got," she snarled when she finally had control of her throat back. Washing her mouth out from the tap, she turned to find a towel. What greeted her looked like a new life form. "Oh my God!" she shouted and stomped out of the room. As she got to the top of the stairs, the world gave a rather alarming lurch, and she had to grab the banister for support. "Not good," she muttered to herself. Perhaps the detox tea she'd been drinking for the last 2 weeks had not been a good idea. She staggered into the only other room upstairs and discovered 3 beds. Paying very little attention, she climbed into the one nearest her. It was huge, but it had a comfortable blanket spread over something soft. She did her best to settle down. There was only one problem. The bed looked like a large crate. She couldn't help feeling like a lid might be nailed on at any minute. Not a settling thought. Groaning, she sat up and dragged herself out of the crate. One of the sides snapped under her hand. She threw it to the side as she clambered to the next bed. "Oh, hell no," she said as it dawned on her the bed looked very like a coffin. She didn't care that she ripped part of the silk lining as she exited it quickly. That left the third bed, which she sank into and sighed. It was comfortable and sweet, and only a little short for her. Calculating how much the cottage might be worth and how much she could get out of whoever the hell lived there for poisoning her, she curled on her side and went to sleep. She was out for the count when the door opened once again and the 3 Zombears returned to their home. Baby Zombear was nibbling on the remains of a squirrel from one of their traps. Not that he didn't love his mother's cooking. It was just sometimes the urge was simply too much. Squirrel brains were really very tasty. As he went to sit down, Papa Zombear noticed his chair was not in the right place. "Brains?" he said, pointing at it. "Brains," Mama Zombear replied with a shrug. Then she looked at her chair. "Brains!" she cried and pointed to her cushion on the other side of the room. "Brains, brains!" Baby Zombear agreed, picking up his toppled chair. It only got worse from there as Papa Zombear looked at his bowl. "Brains!" he growled low and dangerous. Papa Zombear was very particular about his porridge. He moved the spoon, sniffed it and immediately dropped it again. It smelled of cloying perfume. "Brains," Mama Zombear said, nodding and pushing her bowl away from her. "Brains," Baby Zombear said sadly, holding his bowl upside down to illustrate how empty it was. Papa Zombear growled loudly and lumbered into the next room, followed by his family. Things had been moved in the living room as well, and one ornament near the hallway had even been knocked off. Papa Zombear followed his nose and shambled up the stairs. He missed the days when he had been fast, but there was no time to mourn that now. Under the perfume he smelled human, which made his mouth water. The less said about the bathroom, the better, and the scent of human was stronger in the bedroom. The small family made their way in, and Papa Bear couldn't help staring at his bed. Many knew that a vampire's coffin was very important to them, but very few realized that a zombie's resting place was also sacred to them. Zombies didn't exactly sleep, but they could turn off. However, only in their safe space. Papa Bear could not even speak as he stared at the broken side of his bed. "Brains," Mama Zombear whispered in horror as she took in her defiled resting place. She reached out and ran one claw over the ripped materials. "Brains, brains!" Baby Zombear said excitedly, pointing. His enthusiastic shouting woke Karen Goldilocks, and she sat up almost like she was in a trance. She blinked at the Zombears, and that trance broke. Her scream echoed around the room like the most practiced 70s scream queen, at which point she promptly fainted back onto the bed. "Brains," Papa Zombear said, lumbering up to the bed with every intention of ripping their invader's head off and feasting with his family. However, something stopped him. As his paws clasped either side of her face, he noticed a slight discoloration in the skin beside her mouth. "Brains," he said, pointing at it. All 3 Zombears knew what that meant. They'd been through it all themselves. "Brains?" Baby Zombear asked, because there was no point eating an infected brain. It would taste horrible and give them no nutritional value. "Brains," Mama Zombear said with a shrug. It was a bit of a conundrum. Papa Zombear looked up from his porridge when there was a knock on their door a couple of mornings after their break-in. Brains, he said, sniffing the air. He smelled human. Brains, said their newest family member, standing from her place at the other end of the table. Karen Goldilocks shuffled towards the door, pulling it open with one greying but still nicely manicured hand. "Hello, my name's Sandy," was as far as the visitor got before she looked up, screamed like a banshee and ran away. "Brains," Karen said, as she just stared as the woman careened through the forest directly towards one of the family's traps. She closed the door and lumbered back to her place and her helping of porridge. "Brains," she said, to let her family know they were in for a treat later. Human brains would make a lovely change from squirrel and rabbit. Thank you for joining me again this week. I hope the Zombears and Karen Goldilocks made you smile. I had so much fun writing this one. Please, give it a thumbs up if you enjoy my story. And it would make me very happy if you would subscribe. It's totally free apart from the odd ad, and if you click the bell icon too, YouTube will let you know when I publish new vids. You'll never miss out on a story, and it will really help the channel. Thank you so much. There is an ebook version of the story on Amazon and all the other major retailers if you would like a copy to keep. There is a link in the description or scan the QR code on screen now. See you next week. As always, we'll have 4 YouTube shorts on Monday to Thursday and another longer video on Friday. And now, some cute kitties for all the cat lovers out there.